Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Gear Talk. That's right, we're going to have some fun this time around. Look at the colors, okay? Look at this. Look at this changing colors. We haven't done that before. You want to know why? We're talking about some fun stuff today. Welcome to a Gear Talk every other Thursday at 5 o'clock. What we're talking about today is something that I've really wanted to touch on. I didn't really think about it until I really put my mind to it and realized guest characters. So Gears of War has guest characters in it. Now, a lot of the newbies, the people who are playing the newer Gears of War think like, oh, Gears 5, yeah, we had some characters in it. We go a little bit further back. So all the way back into Judgement, we actually had some characters that were introduced, along with games like with Gears of War 4, we also had characters that were introduced. Not many, but just sprinkled in until we opened up the canister that was Gears 5. And for anyone who doesn't know, I love games with guest characters that are introduced. People can say what they want when it comes to like the current situation with like Mortal Kombat, if it's good or not, or if people like it. They have been a staple for guest characters. They're well known for introducing guest characters. Mortal Kombat X, in fact, with Jason Voorhees. Jason Voorhees in Mortal Kombat X is my favorite Mortal Kombat character of all time, tied with Rain. I really enjoy Rain a lot. But those are my two favorites. You have a main character and then Jason, who is a guest character. And it's just fun. Like Soul Calibur always liked to play around with like Star Wars, where like Soul Calibur 4, that was fun as ever. And it's just like that kind of stuff I just really enjoy. Now some are better than the others, but let's take a look at like the reasoning behind why we get these characters and like the characters in general, just to get an understanding of how they ended up in the games that they ended up in. The flashing, by the way, if you're wondering why we're going with that scheme for today, is because of the fact that some of these characters are good, some of them are evil, and some of them just kind of fall into wherever they want. So I was like, you know what? Let's just put all the colors on. Why not? They all fall into their own side of things. Like, for instance, in Gears 5, with a group of characters we get, we're going to be getting a lot of these colors that mix in. But we're starting off with Judgment. So in Judgment, we actually get two guest characters. Now, these are more like you have to go through certain things to get them. You can't just get them in the game or just pre-order them from somewhere. These characters are actually from the game Bulletstorm, another game that was done by People Can Fly. A great game. I believe it was also Epic that had their hand in that. I loved Bulletstorm. It was great. It was my kind of humor at the time when I was in high school. It was perfect. And it's been a long time since I played. Again, high school. But I do have the name of the characters right here, the two that are brought in. We have Grayson Hunt and Trishka Novak. So these two, so Grayson's the main character. You play as Grayson in the game, and then Trishka is like a prominent character throughout it all. And the reason they're in this is People Can Fly. They were the ones behind Gears of War Judgment. So they kind of just put them right on in there. It makes perfect sense. A company putting their characters into another game that's under their company just makes perfect sense. Not really a lot to dissect here. It's just basic. These characters, we're basically doing things with them. We're going to put them in another project we have. So really cut and dry for Judgment, but it was really nice to see like this was the starting point, was Gears of War Judgment. Of all games, that's where we began. Coming up from that, we actually jump all the way up to Gears of War 4, so I guess technically it would be the next one in the series, if you think about it for releases. So the next one up, we had Gears of War 4, and this one was actually done as a promotional stunt for the group Run the Jewels. And this was with the two artists, LP and Killer Mike. Now these two are in the group. They all have their own separate careers, but together they are Run the Jewels. Now I had to look this one up to know how exactly they fell into all of this, because at the time of 4, I had no clue who these people were. I vaguely have heard of Killer Mike, but that was it. So, and by the way, I listened to a little bit of their music. It's not my cup of tea. Some is good. The fact that they used it in the Horde Mode trailer for like when they had their pack come out, I thought was really nice. I thought that song was okay. I'm just not a hip-hop R&B kind of guy, so it was alright. It just wasn't my cup of tea. But the reason they were in this is because apparently at the time Gears of War 4 was coming out with this promotion, and I think it was well planned out beforehand. They were already coming out with their third album, and they were waiting for it to come out, and the teaser for the album was one of the songs was going to be in the trailer for Gears of War 4 for the Horde that they were releasing with those two in the packs. Now, for anyone who knows 4, the packs were basically loot crates, and they were just a horrible system, but not as bad as the Gears 5 store. Trust me, horrible. We'll get to that. But they basically were like a part of that. They were the only guest characters in the entire Gears of War 4, but it was really nice to see them, and that their promotion was to go through Horde mode, and that was to get their label out there to know, like, hey, run the jewels, you know, album coming up. So that was why we found them over in Gears of War 4. Oh boy, and then we get the big one. So, the big one we are dealing with is going to actually be involving Gears 5. Oh my goodness. So, a lot of stuff there. Okay, starting off, let's just get this out of the way. There was a lot of controversy involving Gears 5 when it came to their store when they originally opened everything. It was a cluster. It was a horrible situation. For instance, you had like pre-order packs that were being released, but it was a 2-part pre-order, and only one of them you could get by buying the game through pre-order or day one purchases, and the rest of the pre-order pack for the theme of it all, you had to go in and purchase as DLC for an exuberant price. I think the price just for 2 characters was $20. If I remember right, I believe that's what it was originally. It was a complete rip. I thought it was the dumbest thing ever created. You had other characters that were introduced that kind of made it a little easier, but it was still just a complete major cluster at the beginning of it all. It was horrible. I was there for all of that. It was bad. Basically, we'll talk about that fiasco with the characters involved for what they released. These were guest characters. The guest character pack was based on Terminator Dark Fate, the newest at the time for the Terminator movies. I believe it is the newest one currently in the series right now. And that found us in a different timeline altogether, where we still did have, and we'll talk about her first because everyone wants to hear about it, Sera Connor. So Sera Connor does appear in Gears 5. It's her older appearance from the Dark Fate timeline. If you're wondering why I keep bringing up the timelines, there are a lot, like, time is a very big thing in Terminator. Like, timeline, there's, like, just the first few movies. Like, if I just think of, like, the first, let's just take, like, 4 of them. The first 4. Let's just think about that. I can think of 1, 2... I think, honestly, like, 4 timelines are introduced or talked about, but it's only, like, 3 of them that are actually explored, but there is a 4th mentioned, if I remember. It's been a while since I watched the originals. Judgment Day, I did watch that one. That was amazing. But that's what you get there for, like, the timeline. So, Dark Fate's the newest one, and that's the story of basically, like, Skynet finally gets taken care of in the future. This is a whole we're not going to deal with the whole... It's a crazy story for Judgment Day in general going on through all of Terminator. But basically Skynet's destroyed, but there's an alternate version of Skynet that's created, and they're sending back more powerful Terminators, and they have to deal with that. Sera Connor is in the past, and she is the rugged old lady ready to throw down. She's like the stereotypical horror icon main girl that becomes the badass later on in the story. Like, you have that, like, in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the newest one. That happened also. It just happens. Like, in Halloween, that happens with her. It's a trend. So that happens. She comes in. You can play as her. The other character you get introduced to right away is the T-800. So you get the original endoskeleton for the Terminator. The original Arnold Schwarzenegger, just the metal. You get him involved. So, like I said, the reason it was all tied in is because new movie coming out, new game, pre-orders all together. It kind of just sells both ends of things. So that's why they did it. The second half of it all was the part no one was a big fan of. That was the newer things that were going on in the story of Terminator, the new characters. So you get the older characters as the pre-order, but for instance, like, and I have the names here because I never watched Dark Fate. I'm behind on my Terminator. But you get Grace Harper, she's a human, but she's augmented to be cybernetic also, so she's like half human. Well, she would be a cyborg. Basically, she's a cyborg, but she is still human. She's not like a full robot automaton. She is a human. So she's going through, she goes back in time to assist and fight, and they are fighting the Rev 9, which is the newer, crazier, upgraded liquid metal type of Terminator that you get. It is a complete, when it was in the games, trust me, people hated it because it blended into so much stuff. But that's like what you got for like the pre-orders. And again, new movie, second part of the pre-order, fork us over money if you want the complete set. That's how they did it for the Terminator portion for Gears 5. There were some other things that you ended up getting. I believe it was pre-order or day one. I don't remember which it was for this one. You actually got, and this one was a great move that they pulled off. I thought this was amazing. A little behind for the time they pulled it out, but it was still amazing. I would have asked for it no matter what. You got characters from Halo Reach. This one made perfect sense. Microsoft, boom. Put Microsoft in a Microsoft game. Golden. And it worked extremely well. This was like the one thing they did with the store. Well, one or the other. We'll get to the other good thing, but one of the things that just was the craziest thing, and it worked out perfectly. I never once heard any complaints about this. No complaints at all for this release. You got Emil and Kat. So if you go by the full name, and I have their service tags here for everything, you get Emil A239 and Catherine B320. And these two you see everywhere online still to this day. Emil is the badass of the group. He was perfect to bring in. And then you have Kat, who is obviously the tactician, the robo arm. She fit in so well with the cybernetic style of things. It was perfect. I couldn't see... To this day, I have no arguments. I think it was a great choice. I don't even think... Picking... Of course, you know, Noble 6 would have been great. But picking from any of the other characters, I think these two were the best choice. So that takes care of the Halo side of things. The final grouping of things that came out in 5, this was towards the end of everything, towards later on, is the WWE like basic partnership that they had, and they were already partnered with Gears 5 from the get-go, but they introduced the WWE slot of things, and they actually throw in characters. The biggest one that got revealed, at least for when it came to the marketplace, was the New Day. So you got Xavier Woods, Kofi Kingston, and Big E, all three of them released. This was, you know, the whole team all in there. And this was actually a really cool thing to see. A lot of people had some issues with it, like for instance, the price was pretty high. People didn't just, you know, they felt like it really took away from what Gears originally was with all the neon colors and everything and the dancing and the booty-os and everything, which I can see that perfectly fine, and I do agree with that. But it was nice to actually see these three, which they are gamers in their own right, and they are big fans of Gears, actually being in the game. So I saw that as an endearing thing. I agreed with both sides, and I still agree with both to this day. I was happy the New Day got to be in the game. They enjoyed the game. But it did really take away from what Gears was really all about. It really did put a knife in the heart a little bit. But WWE was partnered, and that's how it happened. And I think it worked out well enough. But then we get the biggest reveal they ever did for a guest character. To this day, I still believe this is... You can't really top this one. And they put all their eggs in this basket, and I'll tell you why. So we got Dave Bautista. The animal himself is released into Gears of War. He is a skin for Marcus, but I am including him here because of the fact, not only is it his entire voice lines they put into the game, his likeness, they put Bautista in a version of the game where he replaces Marcus altogether. Bautista is Marcus Phoenix. And the biggest reason it's Bautista, not only the people, but Bautista himself have wanted to be Marcus Phoenix. He has wanted to have that role. We've wanted him to have that role for literally decades. And he has done everything in his power to ask for it. He is getting up in age a bit, but I do believe he could still pull it off. I still have faith in Bautista. Great actor, and I do believe he could do it if they gave it to him. He's made to be Marcus. They promoted it as him being Marcus. He's openly stated he wants to do it, and he has fought for it. So they finally put him in there. He's not, you know, live action Marcus, but we got something pretty close to it. And boy, is it probably my favorite of all the guest characters to ever come out. I love a lot of these characters, but Bautista he's the best one. I'm sorry. Ask a true Gears fan, a tried and true that have been through it since beginning to now, who their favorite guest character is. There's a strong answer. It's either going to be from Halo or it's going to be Bautista. They even gave him the Bautista bomb in-game. So I still have that execution to this day. The Bautista bomb. I love it so much. I just can't see a reason why you wouldn't pick Bautista as the best. And I think it was a great move. They threw it in for free. So yeah, there were no arguments. There were a lot of characters in this that people had some issue with, like the Terminator debacle, you know, you had the New Day stuff that happened, but when it came to like Halo and it came to Bautista, that's what Gears fans have wanted, and that's what we got. So that's like if you play Mortal Kombat, yeah, you might get a character you don't really want in the pack, but at least you're getting like the Predator, Alien, Leatherface. You know, Freddy Krueger was the only DLC character that was a horror character that was introduced in MK9, but still Freddy Krueger. You know, all these characters. And I just really love the fact that we got something that amazing. And that is going to do it for today's Gear Talk. A really short and sweet one. I just kind of thought about it off the fly, and I was like, Yeah, I've never really addressed any of the guest characters or anything. They're all multiplayer, except for Batista with his alternate story where he's Marcus. But essentially, none of them are canon. None of them play a role in anything. But it's nice to talk about because with E-Day coming up, we don't know the exact specifics of how multiplayer is going to work, how DLCs are going to work. We don't know how the store is going to work. We don't know any of that. We could get more guest characters, but I'm siding towards maybe not because E-Day really is a very story-driven campaign we're looking at here. E-Day is going to focus a lot on the situation of E-Day. Multiplayer might be taking a back seat, is pretty speculated with E-Day, so I wouldn't be surprised if we really didn't get that heavy into the multiplayer or get guest characters, but time will tell. I didn't really think we'd be getting the WWE New Day or Batista at all when that happened, but we ended up with that. So, I want to thank everyone for watching. I want to thank everyone for making this possible. Thank the patrons for making this possible. And I'll see you guys in the next video. I love y'all to death. You all have a safe and good one out there. Later.